If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew,
This is Joe.
and this time we're coming at you with our top 10 favorite comic shows. So if you didn't hear before when we did our movies, it's going to be the same style. We're not necessarily picking the top 10 most critically acclaimed per se. I mean, if you can go on the internet and look up any list or topical site that you want, and I'm sure you could find the public opinion of that. So you're going to just find out kind of more about us in case you didn't already know, and basically what our tastes are and what kind of TV shows that we enjoyed watching over the years. But before we get into it, how's it going, Joe?
Good. I was just gonna say, me, and Juan just hung out yesterday,
We did.
and we had a little pre-con thing going where we hit up a bunch of different shops and balled out. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, some of us more than others.
Yeah,
These
yeah. I
boys
want
got stacks. I got shrimpy little stack, but I feel good about it.
as long as you go in there and you could find something, it was just cool for all of us just to be together and be in that mode. Because there was one time you and Juan were hitting on all cylinders, and I couldn't find anything at Ben's, and sometimes that's just how it happens. But I know I had a lot of fun this time around.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, that'll get us ahead of our con trip. I mean, if you want to hear about that, I mean, that was on our 100th episode special. If you want to go back and revisit what our game plan for that looks like, we're very pumped. We're just under about a month away at the time of this recording. But with that, a little bit of riff in there. Let's talk about these shows, brother. So if you're not familiar, we'll start. I mean, I don't have a super strict ranking here. In case y'all are new here, I'm not exactly the guy to sit through a whole series or really watch much of anything type of guy. So it's mostly like bits and pieces, and then the few series I have watched all the way through are really for me. It kind of tightens up at the top. But we'll work our way towards our number ones. And yeah, we'll take turns going that. You want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, because I feel like we need the extra time today because I feel like we really went up to the last minute with our movie one, surprisingly. So
I have a
my
hunch we're gonna do that again.
yeah, so let's just get it out the way now. My number 10, and you will probably hit on this a little more than me later on in the show, but I'm gonna give my number 10 to Peacemaker.
Nice.
So I really, really struggled not putting some other shows on here, like spoiler alert, like the original Batman show's not on there. And it's just like, I feel like it's sacrilegious not making that on a top 10 list, but it's really about what we enjoy. And I thought to myself, what am I more likely to rewatch? Or like, what would I be more excited about coming out and watching it like at that time? And I think Peacemaker. I'm excited for the new season. It was just a really interesting take on live action superheroes. It gives me a glimpse of what James Gunn can do in the DC universe. I don't know, it was just so different. I didn't know what to expect, and it was a lot funnier than I thought it would be, and a lot more like not so serious. So I really enjoyed watching it and figured it deserved a spot on my top 10 list, even though there was a lot of good shows I wasn't able to put on here.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's considerably higher up my ranking, so I'm not gonna elaborate too much at this time. But to keep it live action, actually, I guess at my number 10, I'm gonna put Daredevil. And like I said, I only watch like some stuff. I don't think I've ever watched. I mean, there's a couple of these series I've watched all the way through, to be honest, but Daredevil was good when I did watch it. I probably got a season and a half in, then Jazz blew me in the dust and just watched it because I didn't have Netflix on my own. So I was like, damn. And Yeah, I don't know. It was just good, especially when like the rest of those shows suck so much in comparison that they tried to come out with like afterwards. It just really is like, damn, Daredevil was the really only good one. And I don't know, it's one of the earlier good Marvel live action shows. So I don't know. I thought it was like a good tone. It was cool seeing him progress from like the all black costume into his iconic red one, and just a good show.
Word. I would get into it a little more myself, but kind of to your point, that one's a little higher on my list, so I'll leave it alone for now. My number nine, The Walking Dead. So the show ended up actually being not very good after a while.
Yeah.
So there was definitely like a jumping off point.
Yeah, jumping off a building, that shit sucked.
Yeah, I don't, it's
Sorry.
hard for any show to sustain success for that long. And
Yeah.
so I guess I get it, but like I remember being in high school and remembering how much of like a cultural phenomenon it was, like everybody,
Yeah.
not even comic book people, would like make sure they were home at a certain time so that they could watch the new episode. Even my mom was getting into it, and people at work that don't like comic book stuff and so on and so forth. So I thought it was pretty groundbreaking in the sense that, like, you've seen a lot of DC and Marvel movie or TV shows, but you haven't seen a lot from Image other than Spawn, really. And I feel like that really opened things up for Image or any other company, kind of like now that you got the boys and stuff like that, to get a little more independent with your comic book storytelling. And then also, first season is excellent. Shane was like a really good villain. I don't know, there was a lot to follow for a lot of people, so not only the comic book was good, but the show was good too. So even though I fell off and I don't know how many seasons I missed of it, for what it was when it came out, I thought it was powerful enough to kind of make my list.
Yeah.
What's your number nine, Burger?
Number nine is Doom Patrol. So that's mostly because it was something that Jazz and I would watch together. And for her to be, admittedly not the biggest superhero fan, she does like the first two entries onto my list here. But that's usually about the extent of it. Well, maybe not. She likes about likes about half my list, surprisingly. But she isn't the biggest fan. It is goofy. It was the Brendan Fraser Renaissance, the Renaissance. So that's cool. It's kind of offbeat. A lot of those DC shows in that time period, like Titans and all that other stuff, wasn't very interesting. But this was like at times a little overly goofy, but something offbeat and weird is usually more my style. If it can be like just stupid or silly, like I appreciate that. But they kind of had it well balanced in terms of storytelling too, and a pretty solid cast for the most part. So I thought that that was a good show. We didn't end up finishing it, but it was good while we were in it.
Yeah, I can't say that I watched a lot of it. I think I watched the first few episodes, but it seemed pretty good.
Yeah, I watched, got like a couple seasons deep basically, and it was solid all the way through. It's just I think it took too long to come out, and then
Yeah. I like Brendan Fraser. I like the Doom Patrol. It might be something I have to visit. The same thing with Swamp Thing. That came out for just a season, and so I never actually, ended up watching it because it didn't really stream on anything and it was canceled after one season. But that was something that was kind of offbeat that looked pretty good too.
that was solid.
Yeah. But I guess to get into my number eight, I'm gonna go Watchmen. So I didn't know what to think of that show when it first came out because I was watching the episodes as they came out, and I thought the acting was good, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And when you watch something and it's not what you expect, even if it's good, you're kind of like, it's not what I wanted for it. So you're not like so bought into it. But I didn't give up on it. I kept watching, and things really come full circle at the very end, and you kind of realize how nuanced it was. And I'm so glad that they used the Watchmen title, even though it wasn't really like the Watchmen story, because it just really fit the vibe of the title. And it kind of actually made me enjoy the idea of DC doing like one-off stories, because it was kind of like a one and done. And I could just see them telling stories like that for different characters that they don't want to dedicate like a whole like multiple seasons to, like Green Arrow or the Flash. You know what I mean? Like, could do just like one story that's just really well done. can be as offbeat as you want it to be, but they still managed to do a pretty good job with like the cinematography side of things. And I think it was like a mature enough watch where even if you didn't like comic book stuff, you would still maybe like it because it was very HBO, or I guess now Max quality of storytelling.
Nice. I did not watch it at all, but I just like I said, it's just hard for me to sit down and watch anything. And while you were talking, I started to revise like looking at my list. I just realized that I made mine one short on accident, and I don't know if I feel super strongly about any other TV show. And I guarantee it's not on your list, so fuck it. We're just gonna pick a random show that I watched. So my number 7. It's probably more like my 10. It's probably not even a really on my top 10, but you know what? Here we are. This is what you come for. We'll do My Adventures with Superman.
Oh, what?
Yeah, because I'm trying to blank on what other shows to put, and I'm sure that we're gonna have a lot of overlap, so I'm taking the path less traveled, but I
Can
did
I
watch,
interrupt you? Is Legion
yeah.
on your list?
No.
I feel like that's a no-brainer for you then. You're picking Superman over Legion?
Legion was good, but at the same time there was well, it's so convoluted though. It's like I sit there
I,
and it's
I
like
didn't know you were into that Superman TV
I-
show like that.
not like that. I just literally told you it's not that deep, but I'm just going with it because it's not on either of our lists, and I realized I miscounted.
That's you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's soft as hell, but it is at its core very Superman. It's very like true to like his characterization at least. Lois is a go-getter. Jimmy is kind of a I don't know, like a goofy sidekick basically, and Clark's is honestly as wholesome as I've seen him portrayed other than like the OG stuff because it's like a younger Clark, but like yeah, the packaging not exactly like my cosign because it gets a little bit too anime looking-y, and they do change up characters a lot. Like Parasite is like more so like a power suit type thing, and Deathstroke they made him like a twink, and I'm like, what's going on here? So they definitely took their liberties with it, but like at the same time, I kind of like the dynamic between. I think I really like the core character writing, but I think that they do package it extra soft. I don't think that anybody's really the target market on this podcast, to be honest. But I mean, I can't fault it. It's mostly a visually, well, I mean, that's half the thing. But okay, fine. Let's like tear it off with Legion. I liked Legion, but it's like you can't recommend it to people because it's such a niche part of X-Men lore to begin with. And then like on top of that, like the show itself is just confusing. But I do like the acting better because they had the dude from Flight of the Conchords in there. They had Aubrey Plaza. They had Dan Stevens. But I don't know that I ever even finished that either. Like I think I got maybe 2 seasons deep. And I did like it, but at the same time, there was like a whole lot of nothing kind of going on. It was just like a schizophrenic thing the whole time. So it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, I want to sit through and watch that again. But I honestly probably will check out My Adventures with Superman season 2 because they were teasing, I think, Zod, and I don't know if it was supposed to be Power Girl or something else, but they're teasing maybe it's Brainiac. I don't even know. It was so long ago that I watched it, but screw it. Curveball. Because
Yeah.
like I said, I don't feel that strongly. Like it's mostly my top 5 that I like the most. The rest of them are just stuff I have watched.
Yeah, I think my top 10 kind of starts with my 8 at Watchmen, you know.
Gotcha.
But I guess to get into my number 7, something we've both been watching, Invincible. It's everything I wanted The Boys to be. It's not so dark. It's violent, but it struck a good chord of being like mature without being edgy,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So it was like it's not so taxing to watch. I don't know if it's like, I mean, with animation there's not really lighting per se, but like I guess my grief with The Boys is just like it's so like I don't know if cringy's the word, but like I don't know. It's kind of like more like Gotham, and Invincible's more like Metropolis, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
it's just easier to enjoy. And I guess the reason why it's even that low on my list is because it is a little more niche. I feel like you have to be into like superhero stuff or animated stuff to watch it
Yeah.
because it's not like a great like standalone story, but like if you're in the medium, like this is as good as it gets. Honestly, like you can make a case for this being in like my top 5. It's not particularly like my favorite style of things, but like I don't know, I've never seen it done where it's like mature but not dark. Because even Watchmen's like pretty like dark. Where like this, they could tell like a violent superhero story, or it's also not wholesome, but like,
It's kind of wholesome.
but yeah, it's just it's a little more normal than it what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I just got around to watching it. I got the last episode of the first season to watch, and then I can catch up and watch season two, hopefully before three gets here. So yeah, no, I mean honestly, I have that at like number six for me. It's right outside my top five just because I haven't finished it yet, but I am really enjoying it. So yeah, I agree with you.
Every episode too is pretty
Banger. It's got
yeah,
they fit
constant.
a lot in, but it like doesn't feel like it. Like it makes sense for like the 45, 55 minutes you get.
Was a little upset that I waited so long between season 1 and season 2,
Mm.
but I mean if you just watch it straight through, like it's pretty dang good. It's way better than what you think it would be. And
Yeah,
it's
that's more my speed rather than the last the last one off my list to
yeah.
get back to
Yeah,
normal.
so not edgy, even though it would be in that same category as all those other edgy shows. So much appreciated. Pretty refreshing.
Yeah, it's not really for shock value. It's just kind of, you
Yeah,
know,
that's a great way to put it. But what's your number seven burger?
so, like I said, not super strongly attached to the bottom here. X-Men, the animated series from not 97, which I know is popping off right now. I've only been able to see one episode of that and I did enjoy it. But, just kind of the fond memories of, the theme song, even just, Jubilee being so prominent, the OG gang watching the original X-Men show. It's when in a time where I would say that Marvel's animation wasn't really up to the par that DC was, like X-Men was always solid. I'm pretty sure that was on what WB cartoons in the morning. So it's like it was in the roto with like all the other cool stuff. And back when I wasn't really a superhero fan, that was something that still get my attention. So like it kind of planted the seeds that like, yeah, I do think superheroes and like comics are cool.
Word. Well, I'll go to my number six.
Okay.
Unless there's anything you wanted to add to that.
No.
No. Okay, cool. All right. Well, my number six is something that was a little lower on your list, but Daredevil. I remember being in college and it first dropped, and I thought to myself, damn, this might be like the best live action comic book TV show ever. Like the fight scenes were incredible. It was so unique to anything else that was out at that time. And they finally did the character right, Daredevil. So can't not put it on my list. Everything that kind of came afterwards, to your point, like the Jessica Jones, the Luke Cage, the Iron Fist, you could miss me with that. And I feel like the kind of even Punisher, like they kind of just found that they hit gold and just tried to just produce a lot of that, but they were kind of getting away from what made that show so good. So I don't really know what it's gonna look like when it comes to Disney, but I'm still gonna try to watch it because how groundbreaking it felt.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably am. I won't watch it.
Probably not, but
I'm just lazy, bro.
what's your number six?
My six was Invincible, so not much to add there.
Well, did you want to shoot your number five?
Sure, we'll go with Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, just because it isn't something that I've rewatched as of late, but I do recall always tuning in to watch Batman. I mean, it's like goated as far as animated series go, which is funny because you're the one who watched it more recently. I thought it'd be higher on your list or, on the list. It's not, is it?
It's higher on my list than five.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just five because I haven't rewatched it and it was just classic. I mean, it's better than probably the next two on the list, like in terms of quality, but like,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just five.
dog, you are overestimating how much like TV shows mean to me. I don't like how do I say that more explicitly? But no, it's just a good show. I mean, it's like the iconic representation of Batman that I think of, with the blimps, but like the architecture, like that's Gotham. We got Mark Hamill Joker out of that. I mean, a lot of cool representations of all the classic Silver Age villains. Like it's the shit.
Word. I'll get more into it when my spot comes up.
Sure. Do you want to go on to your fifth?
Yeah, let me go on to my fifth. So my fifth is also something we've been watching lately. I don't know if you're caught up. I guess we haven't talked about it, but I did a combination of X-Men 97 plus the original series.
Okay,
I actually like 97 better,
cool.
but I don't know how else to describe it other than it's just cool. Everything about it is badass. Like this show could even climb up my list by the time I'm done with it. Like it's way improved on the original series. Kind of the original series is weighing down my rating, but I don't know. It's like the first time Marvel found something that could rival DC's animated series or even exceed it. Like, remember when we did our episode about if we were Marvel and DC, what we would do? And I
Yeah.
mentioned like I would try to do more animated stuff if I was Marvel because like DC's got all this stuff and Marvel has nothing. Like, this is the direction I would be taking. They're getting like all the really cool X-Men stories in, but like in a cool way that like most people can actually enjoy without having to read comic books. So, very excited about what this does for Marvel animated anything moving forward.
Hell yeah. My number four is they've actually made it worse since too. The original Teen Titans series, because that shit was very heavy into me getting into comics eventually. Because I used to watch that all the time. I remember even playing the like Cartoon Network game that they had on desktop back in the day. That went hard. But I mean, mostly because it introduced me to Deathstroke, also known as Slade. And similar to like Boba Fett theory, like he looked too cool to not enjoy. And then he was evil and like whooped ass. So I was like, oh, hell yeah. So, I mean, that carried with me for a while. Plus, I mean, I don't know. I just like the cast of it. It was like pretty nuanced for being a kid's show. I mean, obviously, it got a bit more reductive with the Teen Titans Go stuff. But I mean, it's still doing well. I mean, people love those characters. And you know me, I have quite the Teen Titans collection, so it only makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like even to this day, this might be Slade's best representation as a character.
Yeah, it's up there for sure. It's like to the core of the character.
And I don't know that like Cyborg, Starfire, Raven would be as popular as they are. And they might even be the preferred version of the Teen Titans after that show.
Yeah, I'd say no one thinks of the Silver Age version relative to the new Teen Titans.
Like this deserves to be on my top 10 list too. I didn't get it in there. It was kind of like one of those things with like Batman, like that the first live action show is like it's so classic and like I respect it more than I do Peacemaker, I guess, but in the same breath like I guess like if I were going to watch one of the two, I'd probably turn on Peacemaker, but like
Yeah,
yeah, very transformative for, anybody our age.
I agree. How about you? What number we at?
Number four, and I kind of cheated the same way I did with number five. I combined Justice League with Justice League Unlimited. I don't feel like there was really a drop off in quality. I feel like
It's
they're
like the
pretty
same
much the
thing.
same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess a spoiler because I mentioned it earlier that Batman the Animated Series is on my top 10 list somewhere. But this was like just as good, but like represented the whole DC universe
yeah,
as opposed to just Batman. I would say Batman's just a skosh better in quality, but really not by much. So I guess if you're not a Batman fan, I would start here for their animated stuff because like
yeah.
you get the full picture of how they want their characters to appear and be
You get a little bit of
represented,
everything.
and you get a little bit of everything between Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. So I don't know. I rewatched every episode like within the last 2 years between both series, and I can't say enough good things about it. Like I said, X-Men 97 might be able to like inch above it just because it's more interesting episode to episode, a little more high octane. But like if you want just like a good slow burn, like Justice League's where it's at.
Yeah, that's my number three. So, because I think it is the most accessible and it's not dark. It's got time travel. It's got going into space. It's got going into a comic book world. It's got everything like you'd imagine like a Silver Agey book to be. It's like the definitive takes on the characters in my eyes, outside of, how they were written back in the day. I mean, like it's like it doesn't get any better between designs, writing, direction than that. The dynamic of the whole cast is cool. It's just, when I look back on growing up and like saying like for a while I was like, I don't like comics, like superheroes are dumb. But then I look back, it's like I was watching like this all the time and I love that stuff. It's one of the best. And yeah, like you said, if you're just kind of into DC comics, that's the one to watch.
Obviously, pretty high on both of our lists, so can't say enough good things about it. That being said, the one that we've talked about all episode, but I haven't really got to yet, Batman the Animated Series would be my number three. I think it's by far the most classic animated series of all comic book TV shows. That includes anything Marvel or DC. But moreover, I think it's an example of how you do things the right way. It was pretty mature. It was pretty I don't know. They were just smart about the way that they did the show and how it wasn't just for kids and it was kind of for everybody. And it was the perfect adaptation of every single character in his rogues gallery. You know, like the voice acting was famous in this. Like it's pretty honestly critically acclaimed. And the only thing that they were able to do better than Justice League in this is I feel like it was a little more focused on the storytelling because they didn't have to accommodate for so many characters. They did some pretty fun episodes with Batman. Like it wasn't just Batman lore. Like I remember this episode where he meets his like favorite comic book character in real life and it's just this guy who was paid to dress up in a costume and it's just like I don't know, weird stuff like that they were able to do because it was just the story of one character. So, I mean, if you are into Batman, I think it's DC's claim to fame.
Yeah, I agree. Good show. My number two is probably not as beloved, but it's Preacher. This is something Jazz and I watched all the way through. It was awesome. I mean, the show, it got away with a lot, but I mean, it was coming on like what AMC, like on actual TV. So, it's not like it was on like Prime or, anywhere else where they could really do some wild stuff. But, all the way through, it was like, the core aspects were all there and it was, funny. It was outrageous. It's out there. I mean, if you're not familiar, we read this. I mean, it's one of my favorite works in comic books. And Jazz loved it. And, for the like how crass and vile and stuff that series can be for her and her sister Julia, they both love that. I think she's watched it like three times over. So, I mean, yeah, I love that show. It's got a place up there for me.
Hell yeah, not something that made my top 10, but also something pretty unique to you. So I appreciate you putting that out there. My number two is Batman Beyond. It's
Nice.
my favorite animated TV series of all time. There's just something about the added level of horror that makes so much sense for any Batman title. Not only that, but it felt like it really aligned with me specifically because Terry is such a young character. You know, he's like a high schooler as opposed to an old man. And I don't know if it's just because I was a kid at the time, but there's something you kind of identify with there. But like pretty unique and fresh take on all things Batman, which I didn't know that you could really do. So it was just exciting and fun to watch. And I even revisited it and rewatched all the episodes within the last 2 years, and it holds up. Can't say enough about like the horror element that they brought to Batman and how much sense it makes for like something that's supposed to be dark.
Yeah, it's one of the better shows too. I had flirted with it being on my list, and then when I panicked and picked the other show, that's the Batman Beyond would be above the Superman show, obviously, but it led to a discussion at least. But yeah, it's one of the better shows. It was all in the same vein, same time period, but really good stuff. No surprise. Well, I get kind of a surprise, I guess. Number one for me is Peacemaker, mostly because it was goofy as hell. And I mean, you know me with my wrestling background, I love John Cena. He embodied Peacemaker. And, it was goofy. I mean, there were points where it was a little too goofy, but like, I'll allow it. Like, it was just a stupid TV show, but it was like enjoyable. And it was what, like 8 episodes or something like that? So, like, very digestible. That's the nice thing about Invincible. It's 8 episodes, but you're getting close to an hour each episode or so. So, it's nice. It may not be the most quality thing of all time. I'm sure a lot of people dislike it because it's stupid, but John Cena, superhero comics, and I like the Charlton characters always have, so it marks all the boxes. What's your one?
Well, that's another one like Preacher, where it's pretty unique to you. I mean, I recognize it as a top 10 TV show, but I guess I learned something about you because I never knew that was your all-time number one favorite.
I mean,
Like
like
you
I
swear
said,
by that shit. Like,
I fuck with Peacemaker, dog.
yeah, that's your thing.
It's my guy, dude.
That's your thing. Kind of like how my number one is my thing, and a lot of people probably don't agree with me.
Would it?
But I mean, it's not a surprise to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't make your list even at number 10. You
It
like
was
the animated version better,
no.
but I like the live action version, which is
The thing is,
Smallville.
I didn't watch that much. You're the one who watches it, and I figured we'd be talking about it no matter what, so I just left it off.
No. Well, if it was out of respect, I appreciate it
Well, you're the
because
Smallville guy.
I'm the Smallville guy. I
I
can't say
cuck
enough
you and
about the
take it at
show.
10.
I could probably talk about this show for the full 30 minutes that we record. So with that, I'll leave it short. Love the story of Clark becoming Superman.
Best Lex Luthor ever, too.
Love the casting. Even the creation of Chloe, I thought was creative and made sense for the story. And she kind of filled a void that Pete couldn't fill himself. So
Mm,
favorite all-time live action villain in Lex Luthor, to your point.
yeah.
Great story to introduce other key DC characters, like Arrow, Green Arrow showcased on that, and I actually thought it was better than the Green Arrow on Arrow. Not to throw shade. It was just like,
Yeah.
we got Flash and Aquaman and Zatanna and Lois Lane, and it was actually a way to kind of open up the door for more DC stuff, which is kind of why you got Arrow and Flash later down the road. So not only binded me to comic books for life, because then I wanted the first appearance of all these like characters, right? But like I wouldn't be me without the show. Like it shaped my life. I don't know if it was because I was just watching it in very transformative years of my life, but I wouldn't be who I am without it. I feel like for non-comic book people, you could enjoy this show too because it's pretty family friendly. It's like if the Little House on the Prairie met sci-fi, met like the drama of CW. So I don't know. Love it, love it, love it. Best show ever.
You heard it here, Gilmore Girls for Boys. And with that, CBJ Pod on Instagram, Comic Book Junkies Podcast. Search us anywhere. You see the logo, you know the logo. You'll find anything that you need to there. We're on YouTube, if in case you like YouTube better than any podcast app. Rate, review, subscribe. I won't hold you to it, but we do appreciate it if you do it. And with that, that's another episode of CBJ. We appreciate you all for coming out, and we will catch you again next time.
Later, Gator.